Good evening, you're watching Gravitas, and I'm Rohit Gandhi. The United States has now added the student wing of the banned militant group Lashkar-e-Toiba to its list of foreign terrorist organizations. The US State Department says Al-Muhammadiyah students work with senior leaders of Lashkar to recruit people and organize activities for the youth. The fact that Lashkar-e-Toiba, even after being banned in 2002, has continued operating through front organizations is no secret. Over the last 2 decades, the group has renamed an important component of the Pakistan's regional security calculus against India. Lashkar operatives move freely in Pakistan. Its chief, Hafiz Saeed, lives a normal life despite $1 million bounty on his head. Its charity collection centers remain operational despite the federal government's ban. Tonight on Gravitas, we talk about the significance of the ban. Does it then have even a meaning? We'll get into that in just a bit, but first, let's take a look at this report filed by WION security correspondent Raghavendra Rao.
Recall these images of not too long ago. The Lashkar-e-Toiba was a key player in the conspiracy behind the Mumbai attacks and its execution. But Pakistan had banned the Lashkar in 2002. The US had listed it as a terror entity a year before. Yet, the Lashkar and its avatars continued to hide in plain sight in the streets and bylanes of Pakistan's cities. Now the US has banned the Al-Muhammadiyah, the students' wing of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. Its Facebook page claims it is propagating Islam. It routinely holds anti-India rallies on Kashmir. It's not clear why the US proscription has come now when the Muhammadiyah has been around since 2009. It is well known in intelligence circles that the Lashkar-e-Toiba routinely changes names every time it is banned and then continues work as before. Even more interesting are the 2 persons designated as global terrorists. One of them is Shahid Mahmood. He was vice chairman of the Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation, a Lashkar fundraising entity. Bangladesh and Myanmar are his areas of responsibility. He is on record saying that the Lashkar should focus on attacking India and America. Another is Muhammad Sarwar, also designated a global terrorist. He is Lashkar's emir for the city of Lahore and has been directly involved in fundraising for the Lashkar. While the bans may have had some initial impact, it has become increasingly evident that tackling Lashkar and its affiliates requires a more comprehensive ground-level approach, one that takes into account Pakistan's complicity in providing sanctuary to the Lashkar. In New Delhi, Raghavendra Rao, WION.
Joining me now on the show tonight is Aisha Siddiqa. She's a political analyst joining me from London. Air Vice Marshal retired Shahzad Chaudhry is on the phone line with me from Islamabad. Tariq Aziz Pirzada, a strategic affairs analyst, is also joining me from Pakistan over the phone line. Also on the show with us is our Pakistan Bureau Chief Saha Siddiqui and WION security correspondent Raghavendra Rao. Raghavendra, let me start by asking you, what are your sources telling you about the activities of Lashkar Students Wing?
Those in the security establishment in India are of the firm opinion that Al-Muhammadiyah Students is an organization which is masquerading as a students' organization, and in fact it is a front for the Lashkar-e-Toiba, and it's a fertile ground for recruitments for the terror outfit which was banned by the US and even the UN. They say that this organization essentially is trying to radicalize youngsters by whipping up anti-India sentiments. This organization, this students' wing, is known to routinely hold anti-India protests in Pakistan and areas of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. They are known to hold rallies against India. They are known to whip up Kashmir as an issue time and again. And it is one organization which is being used to solicit funding from overseas.
Right. Raghavendra, I'll come back to you later with a few more questions. Mr. Pirzada, how do you respond to this Lashkar student wing being banned by the United States? Does it mean anything at all, or can Lashkar continue to exist in its form in Pakistan?
Well, as far as the banned outfits in India and Pakistan are concerned and elsewhere in the world, those that are engaged in, illegal activity or which are relevant because of their interference in other states, they have to be banned. There is no question on that. But the issue is this, that when you single out one particular country and when you single out one particular organization, then we tend to forget that there are organizations which are being harbored, which are being nourished, which are being funded by, for example, in India, RSS is funding people like Tariq Fateh, people like him. Then we had the incident of the Samjhauta Express, which was all those Muslims who were traveling in that train, they were burned alive, and the people who were responsible, they were allowed to they were allowed to go free. And we have a situation in which the states are not doing what they are supposed to do. And the reason is this, that the fundamental issues between the states are not being resolved. For example, in the case of India and Pakistan, the core issue is the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, and that has to be resolved. There's a freedom movement that is going on right now.
Air Vice Marshal is joining us now live. Could you tell us a bit on what is the reaction back in Pakistan of the ban of this organization, the student wing of Lashkar-e-Toiba?
In Pakistan, this student wing has never been heard of. We do not know what country does it exist in and what were they up to, what are they doing. Lashkar-e-Toiba, as in your own report mentioned, has been banned in Pakistan since 2002. So I guess that anything affiliated with it is also banned. And I have never heard of this kind of a student organization of the Lashkar-e-Toiba in existence or in some sort of a form having existed in Pakistan anyway. So I really don't. In Pakistan, there is hardly any information on this, hardly any discussion on this, hardly any knowledge of it. So really whatever is happening probably based around what the US or the UN may have found somewhere else. I don't know what if they have found, what they're trying to do about it. Really absolutely zero idea here.
Air Vice Marshal Chaudhary, the very fact that there are multiple groups that exist that certainly work, whether it's Hizbul Mujahideen or it's Lashkar-e-Toiba, they all exist and they fight with arms and weapons and they go across the line of control. Isn't this a challenge on how the administration and how does Pakistan look at these groups and whether any action would ever be taken at all? Because certainly a lot of it is backed by the government itself.
Well, yeah, action will be taken, but not on the asking of India, I can assure you that, or against any kind of a group. Pakistan has its own war against terror. Pakistan will fight its own war against terror, but just not because India has one group one day and another group the next day. That surely is not how Pakistan determines what is to be done next. So that should be quite clear, and I think it's quite clear to your people already.
And what about the Americans?
Number one. Number two, as far as the Lashkar-e-Toiba is concerned or anything else, Lashkar-e-Toiba splinters are already part of the Tehrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan that exists in Afghanistan, and the TTP, as you know, has the state of Pakistan in its own crosshairs. So for that, in that connection or in that context, then the splinters of the Lashkar-e-Toiba probably are already now converted into Tehrik-e-Taliban in Pakistan, and many of them into Daesh as well in Afghanistan. So that is where the Lashkar-e-Toiba has gone, and that is where the splinters are. They are very much in the hand and the control of the Afghans and the Americans at the moment. And I think whatever they do with them in Afghanistan is important. Whenever they try and come into Pakistan to attack the state of Pakistan, then it becomes the Pakistani state's responsibility to fight them and to eliminate them and to finish them. So I really, your narrative on these things is entirely different from that of perhaps Pakistan and Afghanistan. So I don't think we can come to any conclusion on it.
No, and the idea is not to point fingers. I was in Pakistan in 2009 and 10, and went ahead to Waziristan and Swat. And what we saw was Tehreek-e-Taliban, which was attacking Pakistan, was part of the bad Taliban, which was described and then by ISPR as well. But they said there was a good Taliban which wasn't attacking India.
Just a minute.
Right.
Did the ISPR say bad Taliban and the good Taliban?
They said good Taliban. I think the terminology
That's
used.
your characterization, right?
The terminology
That's your characterization.
The terminology they used was the Taliban, which was against Pakistan, was their priority, and not. So if they were attacking the Afghans or the Indians, that was not their priority.
So the good and the bad is in the eyes of the beholder, right? It's not what the ISPR said. So don't give wrong words to ISPR's statements. Just say this is what you think.
No, I think it was in a court that this is whatever is the Taliban which is attacking Pakistan is the bad Taliban.
Yeah.
It will not be described. The Taliban in itself.
Surely. Anybody attacking Pakistan is bad, whether Taliban or not the Taliban.
All right. Joining us now is Taha, our correspondent based in Islamabad. Taha, explain to me the student wing of Muhammadiyah. What does it actually do? Do they also identify potential recruits?
Well, as far as we've seen that in Pakistan, as the discussion was ongoing right now, there's so many factions and so many names they use, different names in different places. We know the most public names that when Lashkar-e-Toiba was banned, it resurfaced as Jamaat-ud-Dawa. Then when the Mumbai attacks happened at that time, then it came under some scrutiny, and then it became it changed the name to Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation. And I've traveled with them, covering them during their charitable sort of the charity that they distribute around the country when natural disasters happen. So, for example, in floods 2-3 years ago, I was traveling with them in Punjab, and while they're traveling and then giving out charity, it's actually ironic. They use their original name in the field with the people, and they say, do remember the Lashkar, do remember the Lashkar-e-Toiba. So I've heard that and I've seen that happening once you go out and report out there. So it's just basically, and this happens with a lot of organizations in Pakistan that resurface as different groups. They have different youth wings, they have different student wings. And the fact that people don't know about it does not mean that it does not exist. In a way, it's basically because there's so much of control on the narrative when it comes to these groups on the Pakistani media, in the public narrative. People don't talk about it. There's more focus on the bad Taliban, as you were mentioning. So in that sense, definitely, and I mean this very group, they have a Facebook page, they have a local phone number, they have pictures from Pakistan where they're operating. So it's definitely out there, but definitely the name is not that popular, but its parent organization is definitely known.
We'll continue to talk about this in a bit, but first, this report. Individuals or organizations on the global terrorist list change anything? Does it change anything for them? It would seem not. More in this report by WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui.
Many militant individuals and organizations operating in Pakistan have been put on the US State Department's Foreign Terrorist Organization list in the past, but despite that, many of them operate freely in the country under the same name or rebrand themselves and carry on as usual. Such groups can roughly be divided into two types: the ones waging a war in neighboring Afghanistan and those fighting across the border in Kashmir. The most prominent among the Afghan groups is the Haqqani network, which is considered to be the military wing of the Afghan Taliban. Reports suggest that many of the Haqqani network members have safe houses across Pakistan. A couple of years ago, one of their founding members was shot dead near his home just on the outskirts of Islamabad city, where he had been living for years. And even though there were many eyewitnesses of this incident, the authorities later denied that any such man was killed in that area. Similarly, the Lashkar-e-Toiba has rebranded itself as Jamaat-ud-Dawa. Post-Mumbai attack in 2008, when Jamaat-ud-Dawa came under scrutiny, it changed its name to Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation. Many of the members that used to run the banned Lashkar-e-Toiba are now part of Jamaat-ud-Dawa and Falah-e-Insaniyat. They regularly collect charity, make public appearances, and openly recruit youngsters for their cause without any hindrance from the state. Another such group that is also on the foreign terrorist organization list is Jaish-e-Mohammed, which again has been operating quite openly in Pakistan.
The Americans have repeatedly called on Pakistan to take action against such groups, but such calls have fallen on deaf ears. Analysts believe that Islamabad does not take such action because it thinks that these groups serve its strategic interests in the region. This is Taha Siddiqui with cameraman Rao Bilal reporting for WION from Islamabad.
Taha, let me ask you, how do common people on the street see Lashkar in Pakistan?
Well, if you talk to people, public, like in the public, you talk to them about Hafiz Saeed, you talk to them about Falai Insaniyat Foundation. Most of them would actually be very quite positive about it. They would say that these groups they're doing charity work. This is how they penetrate into the local population, and that usually happens during natural disasters. For example, as I was telling you earlier, that they usually go into areas where they're vulnerable population. They provide them with charity, and I spoke to some of their ground workers in these areas where I was reporting on them, and they said that then when later on they come back to these people, usually a family has 6 to 7 kids. One of them is then sort of dedicated to the group, and they come under the name of Falai Insaniyat, or they come under the name of Jamaat Dawa. That's what the paraphernalia now is usually. But definitely, and then I've met 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds who've gone with them. Once when I was covering the floods again, there was this one 16, 17-year-old kid who was really in his sort of giving charity out. He was quite active, and I started talking to him, and he told me that he had received training and then when I started asking about what sort of training did you receive, then a senior member came, and then they stopped him from talking. So definitely they penetrate in a lot of rural parts of Pakistan where there's vulnerable population, and through charity work the people sort of feel good about them if you talk to the general public. But definitely when you say Mumbai attack and all that, then there are conspiracies about it. The media doesn't really talk openly about it. So in that way, the Lashkar is not in the public narrative in a bad sense, or not even in any militant sense. It's only a charity organization that people look at it here.
Thank you, Air Vice Marshal Chaudhary and Raghvendra Rao. I think that's all we have time for in this edition. Let's take a short break now, and on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about the Indian Olympic Association and what it does. But the challenge will always remain on how Pakistan deals with the Lashkar-e-Toiba and other terrorist organizations that operate from its soil. And for India, it will always be a matter of concern, because this is the country that gets impacted most by these groups. More after the break.